Alright, hi everybody. This is Plywood once again, and we are going to be doing a commentary track for my 5147 any percent PC EZ run of UnMetal, the 2D Metal Gear game that's not a Metal Gear game, but it is a Metal Gear game. So, full disclosure, I received this copy of this game from the developers and did this run during an event that was co-produced by Metal Gear speedrunners and the developers and the publishers behind this game, Unepic Fran versus Evil, Jack LaFear, etc. It was a very fun event, raising money for charity. I've been playing this game for a couple of weeks leading up to this event, but only within like the week before this event happened did I actually start really looking into the speedrun proper. And we're in chapter 1. There's 10 chapters to this game. Chapter 1, we're escaping from a prison cell and picking up some radio fragments so we can communicate with a colonel that's trapped in a prison cell. So it's important there that you actually pick up the radio later. It'll skip a call. So you want to pick up the encryption chips and then the radio. And here, I intentionally try to avoid picking up the coin because you'll get a dialogue of the main character, Jesse Fox. It's being like, I picked up a coin. So there's a few little dialogue cutscene skips that you can do in this run. One of the things that is interesting and unique about this game compared to the other 2D Metal Gear games is the XP system is quite different. So usually Metal Gear, your experience and your level up is based off of rescuing POWs or defeating bosses. In this game, you do get XP by defeating bosses, but if you knock out a guard without them seeing you, you will gain XP. Level ups do not actually give you health, but they give you a skill option, a skill tree, and level 2 is pretty important because that gives us sprint, and that makes us move faster, and you know how it is with speedrunning. We try to go as fast as possible. We earlier built a slingshot and the other radio together because, again, that skips a dialogue. They overlap each other, so you get one prompt instead. This is the first boss of the game, Grenade Guy. He's pretty gosh darn random. You don't know which way he's going to move and how often he throws his grenades. I find that if you're like right by the ledge, he will throw more grenades. If you're further back, he'll throw fewer grenades. So in my book, it's better to just like stand in the back, and then once you land the last one, get in position to go across the bridge that forms. So like I said, we're going to take sprint. If there's no enemies on screen, you move very fast. If there are enemies on screen, I will roll because it'll be a little bit faster than just walking normally. So we've pretty much done everything we needed to do. We made our second radio and we have a rope and hook so we can go down this hole to get to chapter 2, the sewers. The IGT in this game tracks your progress from level to level, tracking everything you do except in between the levels when you're loading. So you get a little break in between the levels, which is nice. Now you'll see that I will be using items without actually like pulling up the menu. That's because I have hotkeys set through the keyboard. So like that severed arm, I have that set to, I believe, P or a key far away, since you only use that item once. So this red cap, there's 2 red caps we fight in this run. The first red cap is a little weird. Like it's actually not that hard of a fight, but you have to get the globe in a good position so that you actually hit the red cap. But I keep on whiffing in this fight. So it's a good idea to like reposition the globe centrally, because sometimes the angle is just not going to work super well. One of the challenging things, if not the most challenging aspects of this game, is that unlike rations in the 2D games that will just basically full heal you, in this game, and it'll be an instantaneous thing, a medkit just gives you a heal over time, and if you get damaged, it cancels it out, which makes everything quite difficult, and it takes time to actually use the medkit. So you don't want to actually kill that piranha monster. It's not good, because if you do, you get a little dialogue that you have to skip. Loses a few seconds. Use a little checkpoint load there to cause the piranhas to come out later. The file I just got, it's very important that you get those files, because that's for story progression. And this is the meat skip. You're supposed to go west and get some meat to distract this dog, but if you roll effectively on that screen and just bait the dog over, you can get to the next screen without needing the meat. This is also true on hard, but it's a little bit easier on easy due to less damage being taken. So we got to go in here, and we're going to get a little pallet and another chip. Chip is so we can make a encrypted radio for Robert, who's our other main contact in this game. Which I wish there were more contacts in this game. I feel like the radio system could have been a little bit more expanded. So once again, we're going to do the meat skip. You want to get 3 rolls in. If you don't get 3 rolls in, you're going to die. And even this is pretty tight. It's so tight, I'm like, I'm just going to heal. If you do this correctly, what will happen is that you'll be bleeding out, and you'll approach this checkpoint, and you'll just reload the checkpoint and get full HP. But this stage was definitely a rough stage for me. Just a little context behind this run in particular. I'd just taken a nap and came back to this game after a run earlier. This is my first run back. The early part of this run is pretty rough, but my end game was much stronger, so this second chapter is quite rough. These shredders will kill you in one hit, so you have to position yourself appropriately. And you'll see that I'm trying to roll when necessary. Sometimes, though, it's probably just better to kill the piranhas and just take the time loss, because getting bit is so bad. It's really, really bad. And sometimes the cycles do not line up the way you want them to. So here you get chased by dangerous squirrels and slam an acorn into garbage. This game is pretty absurd, which is refreshing in its own way, because most of the Metal Gear games are very serious in general. Not that, you know, there aren't absurd moments in Metal Gear, but there was never a squirrel chase in any of the Metal Gear games. The closest analog to this is the poisonous hamsters in Metal Gear 2, which is pretty goofy, but not so much the swarm of sewer squirrels. I'm going to pick up a first aid kit here because I am so low. And this stage really didn't go well. So, pick up that backup kit. And this flamethrower is awesome. It's a very good weapon. You only get it for Chapter 2, but it does great damage. And the music in this spot really reminds me of Resident Evil, actually. So this part is completely deterministic. So I'm sure there's like a very clean and proper way to do this that you can get through these tires without having to basically take out all the squirrels. But it's still very early days with this run, and you know, kudos to the developers. Like, this is not a super straightforward game in certain respects. It's very old school in its sensibilities, so. But you'll notice that I'm like tapping the flamethrower. You don't want to like just hold down the button. So I forgot here, you want to actually burn the garbage. But like I said, this chapter 2, I was like still waking up and not really fully aware and lucid of what the heck I was doing. But you want to burn the garbage there. It's a little bit faster than punching it. Okay, so sewer junk. Now there is a way to keep the flamethrower beyond this fight. Right there, if you burn at the right time when that dialogue comes up, the damage will still be happening. It's a little detail. You want to select 6 tentacles because the fewer you select, the more come up. It's like 4 pairs and then 2 dozen, so 6 is better. So yeah, if you do your damage value correctly here, you won't get this little option about the flamethrower breaking apart. And you can actually destroy the sewer junk with the flamethrower. But it takes a specific damage value to get there. And since sewer junk pops up randomly across the arena, it's a little hard to actually like make a plan around that. This game in general is pretty random, a bit too random for my taste, specifically with like guard patterns and guard routes. Things can get a little bit wacky, and I'll note where those like wacky areas are in this run. It's not literally all random. There are some deterministic stuff, but like this guard is completely consistent. So chapter 3, pretty cool chapter. The first boss is cool if you can actually successfully, you know, do the boss. We're gonna meet a doctor here. We get our rusty wire out because we need to stab ourselves. We break the rack, get these kits. There's no reason not to get those kits. You want those kits, and they're very, very convenient. Those are pretty much the most convenient kits in the game to get 6 kits all at once. So this is what I call the gun guards. This screen isn't so bad, but the third screen where there's 2 guards is pretty wacky. Very nice roll to try to get away from his vision cone. It's kind of hard to judge what vision cone is, but sometimes you can do these weird rolls that prevent guards from seeing you. But sadly, I screwed up that. So if you're too far away from a guy, they will call in the alert. And they'll be like, base escaping prisoner. If that happens, you might as well just reload the checkpoint. It takes way too long to clear the alert. But if you're close enough, they won't call it in. They'll just start shooting at you. So it's important that if you are going to get spotted, you want to either take them out by shooting them or knocking them out. You may be wondering why I'm not like shooting the guards. Like, why not just kill them? That's usually our solution to problems in the other Metal Gear games on any percent. The problem is that in this game you are not allowed to kill anyone. If you shoot a guard, you have to med kit them and then they'll be knocked out. So If you just like let a guard bleed out, you'll get a game over. And there is a non-lethal way to take them out beyond punching, which we'll be getting pretty soon. So right there, I use the load checkpoint trick to get my health all the way back to full. Specifically when you're bleeding, you'll get all your health back, from what I can tell. And if I put any like misinformation out there, I'm sorry folks. It's still very early days with this game, so I won't pretend to know everything at all. It's just based off of what I've learned so far from playing it. So there is a quick kill with this boss. It's basically you want to like keep on tapping as you hold up. Double taps will basically make the gun shoot pretty quickly, and then if you do it at the right rate, the Mega Drone will drop the crate where you were standing, not where you're going. And you just need like 20 shots-ish to take out Mega Drone. So you can do it in a 2 cycle. I think that saves like 10 seconds over 3 cycle. But you have to be very aware of your positioning and shot timing. So it's not like, I don't think it's that hard, but I struggle with it sometimes because you really have to think about your positioning and how well you're tapping. So rolling does give you iframes, so smart rolling will be pretty key throughout this run to avoid bleeding out. There are places where you actually do want to bleed, so you can get your health all the way back to max. But generally speaking, you don't want to get shot. So like right here, I'm going to reload, health back to full. This suit is to avoid the thermal sensor from sensing us. We need to collect 12 batteries on this floor so we can get through the final room. Now, you'll notice that I'm unequipping and re-equipping the suit. That's so I can actually punch. You can't punch with the suit out. If you do, you'll get a little dialogue saying, hey, you can't do that. So the suit will tear. So there's like a very weird rhythm you need to do between the punching and then like unequipping, re-equipping. Punching itself, like there is a specific rhythm you can do to punch very fast. It's kind of tricky. Like I am still not that good at it. It's like tap, tap, tap. You can kind of judge it by the punch animation, sort of. It might be easier with a controller because sometimes I'm quite good at it, and you'll see that throughout this run. Like you'll hear or you'll see a not so fast one. Like you can't be too fast and you can't be too slow. It's hard to explain. I'm sure, like, you know, as time goes on, people will get quite good at like the punch pacing. So that right there is an intentional warp in the game. You smell chloroform and then you teleport to floor 1. And then after knocking out that guard, you get the chloroform rag. So that's a nice little skip that's in the game if you smell the chloroform after entering that office. So the time limit is pretty arbitrary if you know how to do that. That's like one of the few unskippable cutscenes in the game, and it's because skipping was instituted later, so there's certain actions that have to be done without being able to skip them, like that red hat exiting. Alright, so here's Red Hat 2, the lieutenant. First one was the sergeant, this is the lieutenant. You want to take out these 2 guards. You need to take them out. They'll create a lot of problems and you just have to, so you heal them and then reload afterwards. It just depends on where this guy's moving. After you've done enough damage, he'll start activating these lasers. If you stand in the laser, it'll insta-kill you, even on easy, so... It's not that bad of a fight, but it's random since you can't really predict how the red hat's gonna move. Okay, so we have to bring the lieutenant over to the front door so we can actually exit. And that's chapter 3. So I had to do a reload on the gun guards, but that was an okay chapter. Stage 4 has another skip coming up. And that skip is to avoid not only a boss, but picking up what is supposed to be a necessary item, the mine detector. You may also hear me say Stage 4 and Chapter 4 interchangeably, and that is because I'm just so used to playing Ghost Babel. And actually, in this game, it's kind of weird. Like, the side, it says Stage, but on the title screen, it's Chapters. It's a little wild in that way. So it's interchangeable, let's be honest. So these guards, they're very convenient to chloroform. That right there is actually like something that's going to be fixed in a future patch, where if you fail and reload before a checkpoint, you'll get your IGT reset, which is not really appropriate. It should just start from start and finish when you start the chapter and end the chapter, but they're planning on fixing that since it doesn't really make a whole... That's like one of the flaws of the IGT. But to be fair to the devs, they did not really plan on IGT. It was decided on later. So you'll see me running through this minefield, and it's because I already know what the pattern is. Now, I did screw up the sandbag, sadly. I cut the corner too tight, but the basic premise of how this skip works is that there's only a set number of patterns that exist for these minefields. So you can just, when you launch the game, load chapter 4, and you can see what your pattern is. If you have a bad pattern, just relaunch the game. And once you get a good pattern, exit out after saving, and then you can just start the new game and it'll use that pattern. So we cut out like 2 minutes from this stage easily by not having to go fight the shooting gallery boss and dealing with all the robots. We just stay in the jungle. So now we are in the jungle maze, very reminiscent of Metal Gear 2 and Metal Gear NES in that way. We basically have to do some clockwise, half clockwise turns and then return to this corpse. On the third approach on the corpse, we can continue on. You're supposed to get a compass and then throw a coin to distract a bird that has a needle for the compass, and then you can use that compass to navigate. But you can navigate this as long as you have a list of directions on a notepad, so don't ask me what these things are. I have no freaking clue. When I first saw these, I was like, man, how is this gonna fit into the story? And spoilers, it doesn't. These are just these weird flower tentacle monsters that like shoot like their uvula at you. It's it's just wild. Like once I saw this, like, I mean, once I saw the piranhas, I knew this game was pretty weird. Then I saw this, I was like, where the hell is this going? And just, it's never really addressed later on. A lot of stuff like that in this game. So you can actually punch the top of that tree to get that stamina. So that was something I did not realize on this run. So I would save about a second getting that stamina. Stamina, along with one of the level ups, is one of the only ways you can get health. So there's a level up that gives you 50% more HP. If you don't get any of the stamina or that level up skill, you'll be at base health for the whole game. which is a very different design from Metal Gear in general. So this is the barracks. This is a really cool stage. It's very scary though. Basically, we're going to be running constantly. Unfortunately, I got shot here, which is not what you want. You don't want to be bleeding. You don't want to get shot at all during this run. With smart rolling, you should not get shot. We're trying to outrun a group of guards that are doing laps around this base. Think of it it's sort of like the running guard on B2 of the Shell 1 core in MGS2, or like Running Man doing laps around the boss during that boss fight in Metal Gear 2. So we're just trying to avoid them, keep ahead of them. The body armor I picked up in the armory is super duper key. That body armor means that half of all bullets that land on Jesse do not count. They don't hit him. They don't deal damage to him. They don't cause him to bleed. So you can use that very effectively in several boss fights. It's like right there. This all barely worked out for me. There is actually a way to skip this end screen with Jesse Fox wins and the XP. If you throw 8 grenades very quickly at the start of the fight, dialogue can stack on top of each other, and then you can just run up into Splash Mike, aka the tank. Now this was just me being way too gutsy with my timing. You want to throw 2 grenades onto those crates. You'll get more ammo for this fight, but there's no reason to like do it all at once. You might as well just hide first, like I do here, and then throw the 2 grenades. Like I said, I did not promise that this run was completely clean. This run is actually quite difficult. In my opinion, of course I'm a little bit biased since I've been playing Ghost Babel for a long time, but I feel like this run is harder than Ghost Babel Easy. There's so much risk in this run, and there's a lot of ways for you to die. And unlike like Ghost Babel or the 2D Metal Gears where you have these insta-heal, full HP insta-heals, this game does not give you that. So, you know, I am at the health I'm at. If I get hit by a tank shot, I'm dead. And the other thing that you have to consider in that is, unlike Metal Gear, where you can just have a ration or a life med or whatever sitting in your inventory ready to use when you go to 0 HP, that doesn't work in this game. When you get to 0 HP, you are dead. So stuff like that makes this game much more difficult. You have to be way more aware of what you're doing. So definitely not a good stage 5. It can be done a lot faster. I died, etc., etc. This is chapter 6. This is an odd chapter. This is where the game kind of takes a turn. I'd say this is one of the easiest chapters in the game, potentially, once you get used to how the sub works. So this is a very different part. There's these engineers who are operating this saw, and we need to take them out. And of course, heal them afterwards. So you gotta either throw grenades or you can do 5 bullets to destroy the terminals. That left engineer can sometimes end up in the terminal, which is really funny. Looks like you're just healing a terminal. If you approach, when you're approaching someone to like heal them, if you press the heal button or the action button at the right time, to use item button at the right time, Jesse will actually like speed up. So there's some kind of tech to timing that out, so you get a little speed boost as you approach the guys. So that right there is a recycling bin. It takes away all the items you had before. that are not going to be useful for the rest of the run. I do beg to differ, because there is one item I wish you could keep, which is the flame retardant suit. Because there is a part later that it would be like, I wish I could keep this, but you don't get to. I'll try to note that later. I accidentally went back into the sub here. We have to end up in this little pool area to get mini torpedoes. 25 is plenty. Like, you don't actually need that many, but better safe than sorry. So the yellow submarine, I actually find this section very fun. It's just a little too short in my opinion, just casually. I mean, that's nice in a speed run because there's not too much to it. It's a short stage. On easy, hitting the walls doesn't do that much damage, so you can be a little loosey-goosey with it, and because of that, you can actually do planning in your route to hit the walls and avoid taking out certain mines sitting in the water. Some people say this stamina is not worth it. It's like a 5-second detour. Most of the stamina detours are about 5-ish seconds. I don't know which ones are quote-unquote worth it. There is a reason why I'm getting as much stamina as I am. You don't actually need stamina, but it's early days in the run, and it's better to have more than less. The one in Chapter 1, though, is pretty out of the way. It's like 10 seconds lost. So that right there, just take out those 2 top mines, and see I use the checkpoint to get my health back to full. Huge eel. So you actually want to be fairly close to this boss. That way you do damage more quickly. This is something Puzon came up with rather than sitting in the back. So you just cycle it back and forth. It's not so bad as long as you got the timing down. And you can basically get to the surface when this animation happens. It's pretty cool. I don't know if it's possible to actually exit the level beforehand. If it is, it's very tight. I don't think it's possible though, but maybe if you're like perfectly moving, you can get to the surface. Take a little sip of water because this game moves by very fast. It's a super fast-paced game when it comes to the speedrun. It's nice to have those little breaks between the chapters. So I haven't been explaining what these potties are. I haven't used any yet. The potty is a quick save, and we will be using those potties for quick saves later on. It's super useful. This is one of the hardest chapters in the game. Like the chapters 7, 8, 9 are really rough. And then chapter 10 really isn't that bad. But chapter 7 has, in my opinion, one of the trickiest bosses in the game, especially on hard. It's by far the hardest boss in the game. We have to collect $50 million here to buy a boat that will immediately get destroyed for reasons. So these are the crate guards. The most consistent thing I've found here is just to use the radio as a lure rather than like punching the crate. And right there, I use the radio to bring those 2 guards over, take out the crate below while I wait for them to come over, and then go get the money inside. Now I can't really say if this is really like the fastest strat, but because cycles are not consistent, you want to try to make the most consistent strat you can. It probably would be better to use the radio lure and then wait at the corner for them. That probably would be faster. I don't know. Needs testing. I open up that crate for the medkit strictly for safety. You want to end up at the end of the game with 0 medkits, and we'll explain why later. So here, if you use the missile at just the right time as you cut to this fight, it'll actually land on the nuke sub before the fight begins, but I screwed up. That's something I discovered accidentally just by incorrectly inputting. So you only get a couple of missiles here on easy, but like on hard, it's like 10 missiles. It's nuts how many missiles fly onto you. The key thing with this fight is just when you throw the grenades to destroy the crates, you need to position that correctly. Sadly, this fight could have ended in the previous cycle, but you know, I missed that introductory missile and missed some grenades. But the key thing is just not getting missiled twice and dying, because you really don't want to die at the end of that fight. So it seems like I'm making a detour here. I'm not sure if this is actually the best thing to do, but I'm gonna get this gasoline. There's actually a couple of options of what you can do here, but I think this is probably faster than the alternative. Say we need the gas, not the string, and we take the Zodiac. There's a lineup strat here I'm trying to do to make the Black Thunder helicopter spawn on the right side. If you do this fight well and you have like good positioning, etc., you can two-cycle this boss, but it's pretty hard and it's random as well, from what I can tell, whether it's even possible or not. 3 cycles should always be viable as long as you're leading your shots properly. A lot happens in that stage very quickly, and it's all pretty difficult. So definitely one of the trickier stages in the run, followed by what I also think is one of the trickier stages in the run. So chapter 8 is quite different from every chapter in the game. There is no boss fight in this chapter whatsoever. I think every other chapter has a boss fight, but chapter 8 does not. This is the like perfect stealth chapter. If we ever get spotted, it's a game over. So you don't want that. And the challenge really isn't guards, it's cameras, and thankfully they are going to be patching this game. This is, I believe, patch 1.0.6. They will be patching this game for certain fixes, like making the camera views a little bit more obvious, either through an item or literally by showing the view, because the perspective is very bizarre. It can be very hard to judge what you'll see. Like I just did like a angled right angle line, and that's because if you do upright to the crate in the middle, the camera on the right can see you, but if you do up then right, it won't see you. And you only can learn that through trial and error, which is a bit frustrating in my book. So we need to make dummy guards. So we're getting reeds, we're getting string, and we're getting clothes, and those facsimiles will be our guards that we will be taking out momentarily. Again, just being very patient here, because not being patient will kill you on this stage. It's just a very hard stage to make predictable. Apparently you could make the whole thing predictable if you play the start of the stage completely on point, but the reeds are very hard to hit. What I would like to see is the camera cycles to start the moment you enter the fort rather than like from the start of the stage, personally. So here we're gonna run to this guard with the chloroform, put him over here. If you run along the bottom of the wall, the camera won't see you. And I'm going to get 10 of 12 EMGs, or electromagnetic grenades. So these are kind of like chaff, but whereas chaff just work across the screen, EMGs are area of effect, so you have to literally throw it onto whatever target you're trying to disable. Because of this, you have to be thoughtful of your positioning. You can't just like throw an EMG and move on with your merry way. Again, another one of these things that makes this game harder and more tricky than, say, Ghost Babel, where disabling cameras, well, not only can we just throw a chaff, there's the cam shot trick that makes most cameras completely obsolete. Of course, that is a glitch and an exploit. Once you get through getting the EMGs, the rest of the stage goes by pretty quickly because these are static cameras. They're not based off of some cycle. This screen, though, is the last screen of the level. If you reload the checkpoint, the pattern becomes completely predictable. As you can see, I'm like getting a little bit flustered. You have to just wait for this camera to go to the left. Then there is a spot here you can throw the EMG. You got to get this pizza. I disable this camera again so I don't get spotted on the right side. You got to take the fire extinguisher. And then you have to examine the pizza to see that it was a pepperoni. Combine the fire extinguisher with the pepperoni pizza box, and then basically say, hey, let me in. I have a pepperoni pizza for you. I know you like that. The hard part is dealing with the cameras, of course. So even though I screwed up at the end, it was still an okay stage. But the stage can definitely be done a lot faster. No doubt. It's just a very heart-stopping stage. So chapter 9. This chapter is pretty infamous in the speedrunning community. This is one of the longest chapters and there's a lot of risk involved. I take exterminator guards. These are, I think the easiest comparison to make is they're kind of like the Arnolds in Metal Gear, the original Metal Gear. They're robot guards. So they get disabled by electromagnetic grenades. And if you blow them up with a rocket, they'll just die. You don't have to heal them since they're not human. The Scandinavian guards in my book are a lot more annoying to deal with. That blood bag I picked up, by the way, is very key. All the stamina I've picked up throughout this run, and that blood bag is all gonna come into play very shortly because we are going to skip picking up the rad suit on floor 2 and run through the irradiated room, the red room as it's called. But the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you get the blood bag. At the very least, you need the blood bag. So I'm going to use a potty here just in case I screw up, since this room with the spider bots is pretty perilous. So you don't really know what kind of pattern you're going to get. So see, I'm too low because of the spider bot. I barely got it. And see, I knew I did not have enough health to get out because I got shot again. This is why the body armor is so useful, because it can give you a second chance if you get hit. But now I know what this pattern is, so I'm just gonna wait at the top. That's why the potty is so useful on this part, is you can actually see what the pattern is before you enter. One thing that thankfully they will be fixing that frustrated me to no end was that EMGs actually hurt Jesse. So you probably saw me, if you're paying close attention, I hesitated on my movement because I didn't want to roll into the EMG and kill Jesse. So thankfully they're going to be fixing that, because it makes no sense. Because if you throw an EMG at a human, they don't get hurt, but they hurt Jesse. I think that was just because, like, it's coded like the grenades, so of course if you roll into a frag grenade, it'll hurt you. Here, this is a little trick I came up with. You throw a grenade into these crates, get the final card level, and then reload the checkpoint. So rather than punching the crates, you just throw a grenade and destroy them. So this is all to get card 4. Now we can go to the rooftop. I'm going to heal on the elevator. We're not going to be fighting anyone for a while, so the heal over time effect will take its place, or take its course, I suppose. So we're going to be disabling a satellite here. You can shoot the tarps off of these pipes, which was apparently completely unintended by the developers. It's which is pretty hilarious. But yeah, you can shoot those tarps. It's really weird. Like, I still don't quite understand how to do it effectively. It's super strange, but it's faster than punching. Because when you're punching, the problem with punching is that you have to get up onto the thing you're punching, and then the item flies out, and you have to wait for the item to completely fly out, so you can pick it up most of the time, unless it's ammo or something. You're supposed to get a sheet of paper called the KGS 185U protocol to tell you the directions for this, but you don't need it. It's the same pattern every time. Thank you for not being RE3. I appreciate it. So it's 132, 133221 132. It's actually pretty simple to remember because it's 1 to 3, 3 to 2. So you go min to max and then back to min. You have to go look at the helicopter to see that there is no key in it. Don't make that mistake. I've made that mistake where you think, oh, now I'm just going to go do my next objective, but you need to go see, oh, I don't have a way to open the helicopter. Otherwise, you will not hit the story flag for the item you're going to get on floor 3. So here is the Japanese guards. They have 180-degree vision, and that is pretty dangerous. They have very good sight lines, so you have to be cautious with these fellas. The slingshot, however, is quite good here. They get taken out in one hit, so you can use the slingshot effectively. As you can see here, I'm trying to just bait out this guy. Now, that right there kind of shows something I'm not a huge fan of in this game, and it's how it's really awkward to lean. You have to... lean is automatic, so you have to make sure... I had to make sure I was in the right spot to actually get onto the box. The right wall that I want to get on. This screen is awful. This screen is so rough. Just got to be super patient, and that is why I saved the potty for this part in particular, because that screen I always have a lot of trouble with. So this is TT. TT's dead. RIP TT. If I don't get level 6 before this, I have to do more shots. There's an even faster strat that involves using a grenade and then a rocket. But I have not learned it, so I just take the easy way out and use the gun. That is one of the more annoying calls in the game. Robert calls you like right before the door, so you have to be ready for it. And since there's like no one else calling you at this point, since the Colonel got captured like a few chapters ago, it's just Robert being like, hey Fox, yo Fox, what's up Fox, hey, how you doing, man? It's like, man, can anyone else call me? Seriously. So we almost have everything we need. We have to return to floor 1 to get the night vision goggles. As of right now, they may be changing this in the future for us speedrunners so that we don't have to pick these up and we can do the basement blind. We're about to enter the labyrinth, aka the basement. This is if you thought the sewer monster and weird plant uvula things were weird, wait until you see the labyrinth basement with ghosts that we can shoot with our gun. Because why not? you know, why not? By the way, if you have not, if you've never played this game, you're watching this run, I do genuinely recommend this game if you like Metal Gear. I'm not saying like it's, you know, a 10 out of 10 game. I have my qualms with it, but there's a lot of effort and energy put into this game, clearly. It's not just like some rush job as far as like, it's a very nice send back to old school gaming and the MSX era, because the dev really centered his development around the MSX. He never played any of the other Metal Gear games aside from the MSX games to completion. Played like a little bit of Metal Gear Solid 2, which I think that's why rolling exists in this game, which is cool. Like, it's nice to have a roll in the game. So this is just a memorization game. It's very similar to the Jungle Maze. You just have to know where to go. If you go the wrong way, you'll die. Unlike the Jungle Maze, you'll just return to the start. But in this, if you go the wrong way, you'll just die. There'll be a pit, and you'll just fall in and die. So that's stage 9. Very tricky stage, long stage. It's gone through a lot of like route adjustments as the game has progressed. So chapter 10. Chapter 10, I think, is actually one of the easier chapters in the game. I actually think the final boss is easier than it should be, even on hard. Like I said, the first boss of chapter 7, I think, is literally the difficulty peak of the game. So we have to get C1s, 4 C1s, and we're gonna make C4. Get it? Plastic explosive. In that crate is a watch. You can actually get the watch earlier in the game. I don't know if it's better or worse to get it now, but I just get it now. And then we have our C4 with a timer. Put that on this tank. And we enter this X room. Doesn't matter what you pick here. Pick up the kernel. So this is a line I came up with that allows us to do what I call a death march. If you want to be safe, you would stand back and like just knock these guards out or use med kits, but you can actually run throughout this whole thing. This is another place where having more stamina is really nice, because unless you are extremely lucky, you will start bleeding here. You have to get very, very lucky to avoid bled. So we enter this room. This is the armory. We need some EMGs. We need the rockets, some grenades, some ammo. I don't know how much is too much here, so I just kind of say, I'll just pick up everything. Whatever, that's fine. You know, there will be time to make everything very tight, but of course part of it is that it's sort of hard to make certain things tight because like ammo drops are random, specifically with like the bullets. So you have to bring Colonel Harrison here. If you don't, you will game over at the end of this boss fight, so don't leave him out at the elevator. He stole my full potty. I consider that good luck. It's hilarious that he starts stealing all your items, and you just see pop up full potty. He steals a urinal. I just love it. It's hilarious. So there, like, you want to throw this EMG not too early, because it's quite easy to throw it too early and not disable this tank. And right here, this is why we don't want medkits. If you have a medkit here, he will steal it and heal himself right at the end here. So that's not good. And right here, I do a 1 cycle. If you are close enough to General X, it's possible to 1 cycle him after throwing the EMG. I think it saves about 10-ish seconds. And after that, we just punch Colonel Harris, skip the credits, and boom. 5147. With current strategies and the current patch, I think like a 47 is possible. It's just, you know, it's a hard run, and there's still plenty of things to figure out and discover. So thank you all for watching. I will be coming back to this game. It is a fun run, but it was really cool being able to do this run for our Unmetal Unleashed event, and I hope you enjoyed listening and watching along to this commentary track. And thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.